My name is Dr. Tapper. I am in private practice in Omaha, Nebraska. I don't wear a mask. I see over 200 patients a week. I come in close proximity with every patient that I come across. Why haven't I contracted this so-called disease? Americans make up 5% of the world population, but yet we take in 65 to 70% of the world's pharmaceutical drugs. We are one of 2 countries that allows pharmaceutical advertisements on the television. But yet 80% of Americans are suffering with a chronic disease associated with poor lifestyle choices. 700,000 people will die of heart disease this year alone.
Doctor, please bring yourself in order.
600,000 people will die of cancer. 300,000 people will die of obesity this year. When is enough enough? If this is truly about health, then mandate healthy living, exercise, good food choices, chiropractic, outlaw tobacco and cigarettes, processed sugars. I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who stated, if people let the government decide what foods they eat and what medicines they take, their bodies will soon be in a sorry state as those souls who live under tyranny. You see, God made your body self-healing, self-regulating. If you give the body what it needs, it can be healthy. It is like the wilted plant that sits under the sun. An allopathic model to that is to shield the sun, to protect that plant against the sun, cut off its leaves, medicate or vaccinate that plant. But an epigenetic approach, a wellness approach, is to give that plant water, and it can be well. You see, your body is no different. We must eat well, move well, think well, and we can be well. In other words, your level of health is the genetic expression of your lifestyle choices. And I know full well that your body's ability to heal itself, to overcome disease and circumstances like corona, is far greater than anyone has ever permitted you to believe. Benjamin Rush, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, a time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privileges to others. That time is now. These masks have absolutely nothing to do with health, but everything to do with the complying with a false flag, tyrannical agenda. If we sacrifice our precious freedoms for temporary security, we will lose both. If you can't comprehend that statement, if you are blind to this agenda, then I am sorry. You have the eyesight of an eagle, but the vision of a clam.
The ordinance and proposing to delegate to a health director who's a PhD, who is of the mindset that he is trying to propose.
I'm trying to convert the way of thinking, the paradigm.
That's why I was letting it go.
Thank you very much. I respect that 100%. Because the current health director is telling us to fear germs. We're told that we're sick because of bad germs, bad luck, or bad genes, but really that is bad science. 1 to 2% of the pathology has a genetic pathology like Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis. We need to understand that. But 98% of the people that are suffering with chronic disease have a poor lifestyle. Now, I want you to understand, the body has 10 times more bacteria and germs than it does cells. We need to understand and appreciate the symbiotic relationship with the microscopic world that we live in. We don't need to fear germs. If the germ theory were 100% true, we'd all be dead. No one would be alive to talk about it. Germs can pose a threat, but we don't need to fear them like we're told. Now,
thank you. I need you to wrap up. Okay,
the CDC stated last week, and I believe Mr. Harding talked about that. The CDC stated that 95% of these so-called corona deaths were actually associated with comorbidities. What does that tell you about the comorbidities like heart disease, cancer, and obesity? That those are the real killer. That is the real epidemic at hand. And if we want to change this fiasco, we need to change the paradigm.
Thank you. Next opponent, please.
My name is Dr. Tapper, 16909 Burke Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Again, my name is Dr. Tapper, and I am no stranger to you as this is my 3rd time here addressing the regulations and mask mandates. Imagine a virus so deadly and severe that you have to have a test done to find out whether or not you've had it. You guys are basing these numbers on positive cases and not hospitalizations or deaths. That's what you should be basing those off of. The numbers are hyperinflated by false positives and the never-ending doom and gloom from the mainstream media. I was taught that fear is the fire that fuels the furnace of disease. And when will this fear-mongering stop? It is terrifying to me to think how easily this mask mandate could turn into a vaccine one. You see, I follow the vaccine narrative very closely, and I have been for the last decade.
I have witnessed firsthand the damages that can occur after a vaccination, conditions like transverse myelitis or Guillain-Barré. I have met many families that have lost a child to vaccine injury. Injuries are real and not rare. The companies that lie and gaslight these poor families are the same companies and organizations that feed you and the public this corona propaganda. Last year, the World Health Organization stated that the greatest threat to our health is people who refuse vaccinations. Shortly after that, the ACIP for the CDC stated that they cannot force vaccinations, but they could force compliance. How are they going to do that? I don't wear a mask anywhere I go, and the public shaming that occurs is beyond humiliating. I have been refused business, and on some occasions I couldn't enter the store. If the mask mandate turns into a vaccine mandate, you will not be allowed to go back to work, earn a paycheck, renew your driver's license, or function in everyday society without proof of the vaccination. We had draconian bills sweeping the nation last year coming after our medical freedoms. And then the coronavirus came, the Trojan horse to implement this tyrannical agenda. I believe this to be spiritual and psychological warfare on the people. The rate of suicide is the highest it ever has been in human history. More people have died this year of suicide than from corona. The National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline has seen a 65% increase in calls and emails since March. In other words, the vast majority of health, emotional, physical, psychological, and financial hardships now faced by citizens are not due to COVID-19. They are due to ongoing catastrophic lockdowns, restrictions, and policies imposed by unaccountable, irrational governments. Since when is it your job to pass legislation on health? History teaches us that when the government takes away a certain freedom or liberty, they do not freely give it back. Martin Luther King Jr. once stated that oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. We are 6 months into this circus that was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I pray to the good Lord above that the people wake up and realize that we're not dealing with a temporary inconvenience here, but we are headed into a full-on medical dictatorship.
Thank you.